Well, hi, everyone. I'm Coach Lee with Action Coach Business Coaching, and we have Dave Robinett.
Correct.
I said it right with an emphasis on the T. And you have a company called Pound 250, which I love, and you're going to talk to us about that. Tell us about that as we talk. You're located in the Kansas City area.
Yes.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, what your business is, and how long you've been doing it?
Okay. Well, my background was 18 years at Sprint, and I was in marketing research there.
Okay.
Um, so I've always been a telecom guy, so to speak. So, I mean, I started with Sprint when it was just a long distance telephone company. And then of course they added wireless at some point, and that became the whole game. So, and actually my function in market research led to this idea actually. But anyway, I was there 18 years, through 2009. Yeah.
And what made you decide to start this business?
Well, Sprint was great, but it was really great. But my director had gotten laid off, the guy that hired me into the company, and Sprint decided it was a change for me. They had layoffs every year since I started in 1991. Just about every year they had a layoff, and I survived all of those, but I kind of got caught in a musical chairs situation there towards the end. And I didn't have a chance to stay, but I guess I was sort of ready for something new anyway.
So what do you do in the business? What does Pound 250 do?
Well, so it's a speed dial. It's literally a speed dial. Pound, which is sort of like the hashtag key, but we call it pound in telecom. Pound 250, and it works on everybody's mobile phone right now. So in that sense, it's just like 411, 911, 811, call before you dig, all of that. It's called an abbreviated dialing code. That's telecom jargon, which just means it's less than 10 digits, which would make it a regular phone number.
All right.
And so what's it good for? Well, we figured out how to multi-purpose our one speed dial, right? So if you dial 411, you'll get directory assistance if you're willing to pay $2, right, for an answer. So, so the internet kind of killed the 411 business to a large degree. But so if you dial pound 250, it connects to our hosted IVR in the cloud, and everybody in North America, basically, that dials pound 250, they all hear the same prompt, which is, hello, please say the keyword. Now, the only reason they would do that is if they heard an advertisement that said, oh, we've got a great product or service, and now we've made it easy for you to reach us. Just dial pound 250 and say the keyword Pizza Hut.
Okay.
Say the keyword roofing, or say the keyword LASIK or Mexico. Yes. So we call that a spoken keyword.
Okay.
And that could be the brand name, or it could be a company slogan like Better Smile, or Cancun tomorrow, or whatever. Or it could be the category term like roofing, plumbing, LASIK, etc. Right. So that's a shortcut, because especially in radio advertising, and I'll talk about where we got started there, but we've had a 10-year relationship with iHeartMedia nationwide. And so their local and national account reps are out there introducing, hey, dial pound 250 to their direct response radio advertisers who would otherwise be saying, hey, we've got a great product, call us at 877 blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Which nobody can remember. And oh, by the way, 8 out of 10 people that hear a radio ad are driving. So what can they not do when they're driving? They can't even dial a vanity phone number like 1-800-PROGRESSIVE, right? Because you can't be hunting and pecking to spell a word. The Bluetooth button on your steering wheel, Bluetooth doesn't know what to do with vanity numbers. It can't transpose 1-800-PROGRESSIVE into numbers. And they clearly cannot go online when they're driving, right?
Well, let's hope.
You're right. So you're expecting people to remember that ad, 30 minutes later by the time they get to a desk or something. And at that point, they're going to start, if they even remember to do it at all, they're going to start at Google, and they're going to end up with a different plumber or a different LASIK
Sure.
eye surgeon than the one they heard an ad for, right? Because you get all that competitive clutter online. So the whole idea of Pound 250 is get them to respond to the ad, because that's the point where they're most motivated to get a hold of that particular advertiser. So we're removing all of the barriers to immediate response. They don't have to remember a phone number or a website, and they can do it right now. And even if they don't have time to talk, they can make that connection, right? And then the business will call them back. And then, so when somebody says the keyword, we've got speech recognition that understands that spoken keyword. And then we know, okay, where do we forward the call to?
Okay.
Which could be their front desk or their call center. And then as an option, we ask permission to send them a one-time text message back. So we're putting the URL, even a custom landing page and phone number and address, whatever they want. We're putting that contact information in the pocket of that prospect immediately. So therefore they won't get lost
Sure.
by going to Google. They've got the link right there, so they don't have to go to Google. And oh, by the way, it's trackable and attributable back to the radio ad or TV ad that drove them. Because if you think about it, you can't click on a radio ad.
No.
For the most part, you can't click on a TV ad. So you're losing attribution to those media channels. And it shows up as organic search when it wasn't really organic search. Right. It was the media that you paid for. And so that's why we've got this relationship with iHeart, because the radio had lost attribution to all the digital channels. And now this is one way to bring it back.
I love what you're saying and describing. I think it's brilliant. I ask clients, when I interview them or work with them in coaching, and I'll say, where do you get your customers? Google. Our SEO is so good, it's on Google. Well, maybe it's not Google, but that's where they had to go because they heard about you someplace else over here, like maybe an advertise, radio, bulletin board, whatever, or even someone said something, but Google gets attributed to a lot of business that probably doesn't belong to them because they were the final place, right?
Yeah. Well, right. They call that last click attribution.
Okay.
Not always correct attribution, right?
Right. But they get all the credit.
Interestingly, one of your prep questions was, what's the biggest thing you struggled with or learned? And the biggest thing I've learned is, and I would never say don't invest in Google or don't have a web presence. But what I learned is, boy, it's easy to piss away a lot of money on digital marketing.
You are so right.
And without getting a return on it. Now, if you're a plumber, yeah, you better be there. So, because if somebody searches for plumbers near me, you sort of must be there, but you need to balance it out. And for us in particular, because we're an innovative new product that nobody knows exists, nobody's searching for us.
Okay.
Right? Nobody's out there really searching for a speed dial. Well, they are. I'll get to that, but in general, people are not searching for a speed dial.
Okay.
For my business, because they don't think it exists, right?
Yeah.
And the terms that I would have to bid on, like better phone number or toll-free number, I would be, even if I'm paying only for click-throughs, I'm paying for a lot of people that aren't really looking for what I've got. Or, and even if 1 out of 10 of the people that click through said, oh, wow, that's not what I'm looking for, but that's really cool, it's still, I don't get the ROI out of it.
Sure. It makes sense.
So I kind of stopped, and I tried everything, right? Like LinkedIn outreach, and I was able to generate some meetings, but not a lot of closed sales from LinkedIn meetings. And I sort of just gave up on SEO entirely because, well, we call Pound 250 the self-advertising product and we've got a few national advertisers, and they're on Mark Levin and Sean Hannity and some of these national radio programs. And I'm a Democrat, but I'll take their business, right? Right, because we're all in the Green Party.
Absolutely.
And my partner's a Republican.
Okay, well, you guys balance each other out.
We get to tease each other all day. But so when somebody hears that call to action, hey, just dial Pound 250 and say Pure Talk, dial Pound 250 and say Food for the Poor.
Yeah.
Then the astute marketers say, well, wait, what is that thing? That's really cool. And when they Google us, somehow Google has figured out to send them to us because they're looking for, I don't know what terms they're
Oh,
using,
that's interesting.
speed dials,
Okay.
phone numbers, or they might literally look for pound 250 or pound 250
Mhm.
because we do get you know, inquiries from the web form, the inquiry form on our website.
Okay.
So somehow
They're
the
getting to
search
you.
engines are sending people to us.
So AI may be working in your favor if that's
Well, or the Google algorithm or the Bing
or
algorithm,
whatever.
because people are able to find us because they search and search. They say, I want a number like that. And then they figure out that they can't get them. And I know because I'm a telecom guy, the carriers don't hand them out anymore. And the reason they don't hand them out anymore is because, well, if you think about it, they're only useful if they're short, right? Like let's say 3 digits or less, and there's only 999 of those,
Sure.
right? Plus 99. And so the carriers decided that, well, there's limited inventory there, so it's not worth coordinating with our peers like Verizon and T-Mobile and Sprint and AT&T. Well, it's not worth coordinating just for this very small amount of inventory that we could sell to enterprise customers.
Got it.
Right. And that's also why it was fairly impossible to get your own dialing code from the outset, because you may have gotten one with AT&T, but you couldn't figure out who to talk to at Verizon and T-Mobile and Sprint and US Cellular. And they're only useful if they work on all phones, right? So I was just persistent in bugging the crap out of, you know, the carriers until I was able to identify a single number that was available across all of them and pester them into giving it to me, even though I didn't have a lot of money to spend to get it.
Okay. Okay.
So
Cool.
I
I was
call that the grand finagle.
okay. The other number I do think about the 411, the 911, the 811, and then there's the 511 when you're traveling, right? For weather.
Well, yeah, that's to reach interstate highways.
Oh,
So
okay.
actually 211 all the way through 9, they each have an assignment.
Okay.
211 is usually to reach United Way in your community.
Mhm.
311, Kansas City, Missouri uses this, and Chicago does too. 311 is to reach like city services,
Oh, okay.
to report potholes and different things.
So not bothering 911, you're delivering
Yeah, 411 still directory assistance. 511 is usually interstate highways, although many of the highways still have their own dialing code, like
network.
star KTA to reach Kansas
Yeah.
Turnpike
True.
Authority.
Mhm.
Up here, it's for some reason it's star 47 in Kansas, star 55 in Missouri. It's star FHP to reach Florida Highway Patrol. It's star ASP, I think, to reach Arkansas State Police.
Mm.
But that's the only place you see these dialing codes really is on the federal highway systems. And then there are carrier specific ones, like on Verizon, you could dial pound MIN back in the day when you didn't have unlimited to check how many minutes you had left on your plan, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Anyway, that's why they were hard to get and you can't get them anymore, but no problem. Any business can come to pound 250 and we will set you up with what we call a brand keyword.
I love that.
Or a spoken keyword, and then you can still benefit from the speed dial, which means if you're investing in this paid media, which is darn expensive, right? You know, radio is the most efficient because it's a lot cheaper than TV, but it's still quite costly usually. And if you're spending that much anyway, why have a barrier to respond to a random phone number or, hey, visit us at this website, which they may or may not remember to do. So anecdotally, you know, we if you're using pound 250 versus a regular number, you tend to get at least 20-30% lift in response.
Okay, I was going to ask you what that
Yeah, because we've
increase in
taken
response
memory
rate
out of the
is.
equation and we've seen 150% response.
That's really
lift
great.
in response. And it all depends on the category and you know, and the frequency and the creative and all of the other things that are normally required for direct response advertising. And oh, by the way, if you're selling 2-for-1 funeral plots and you don't get calls today, well, you won't get any calls just because you're using pound 250, right? I like to say we don't raise the dead.
Yeah.
Right. So if nobody's interested in your product, you're not suddenly going to get calls just because you've got a speed dial. But so you have to be, your creative has to be capable of generating interest and calls in the first place. But if you can get 10 calls a week, normally you're going to get 15 or 20 calls a week with us.
Got it. And who is your primary customer? Is it the telecom companies, or is it the big companies, or both?
I would say the telecom companies are our suppliers, our tech.
Supplier. I meant
technology.
media. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, most of our sales come through our partnership with iHeartMedia,
I heard. Okay.
because in effect, they're sort of our sales force that's out there.
Got it.
I mean, we do have direct customers that come in through our web portal, but primarily it's the iHeart who's doing helping us with the exposure.
Okay. All right. I love that. So
And so that's our partnership for local advertisers, but we can work with anybody on these national radio networks. So iHeart happens to own Premiere, which is the syndicator for shows like Hannity, and then Westwood One is a peer of Premiere, and they're a syndicator of shows like Mark Levin.
okay.
And Sirius XM is a different sort of national
Sure. Okay.
radio through via their satellite signal, and we've got advertisers mostly on the talk stations on Sirius XM, like CNBC and Fox Business and those satellite channels.
Makes sense. So you've been doing the entrepreneurial thing for a while. What's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
Well, the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So I got flexibility and freedom, of course. And it's good that I've got a partner, because when I've got a meeting, he covers, and vice versa. Although I sometimes think of my late uncle, who was a dairy farmer, who never took a vacation because his cows never took a vacation.
Right.
And they got to be milked twice a day. So to some degree, it's like that. So I'm not only checking email, I'm checking our call logs, and I'm making sure the systems are up and running like every day. And so it's Saturday morning, Sunday morning, I'm up checking on things, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So you are tied to the business, and all entrepreneurs know that. You must do Windows.
Yeah. Yeah. For
You
sure.
must do menial labor as well as the advanced things. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you start your day then as an entrepreneur? I always ask entrepreneurs that, because usually there's something they do that isn't what the average person does. And do you have something that's in your regular routine that starts your day to keep you on your best?
Well, nothing overly inspiring or insightful in terms of entrepreneur. Like I saw that graduation speech a few years back, and it was an Army guy, I think, who said, make your bed. Make your bed. That way, if you do that first thing, you've accomplished one thing in the day. So yeah, I do that, and then I make coffee. That's how I start.
I love the make your bed thing. I think that guy touched so many people with that story. It sounds like he did with you too. And I've even thought to myself, oh, I won't make the bed. No, I don't like coming home to an unmade bed. I don't ever want to do that. And it does feel empowering.
That's the thing. When I was a kid, I thought it was ridiculous, because I thought, well, I'm just going to get right back in and mess it up. But it is nice to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you have the discipline. And so, yeah, I love that. So what makes you feel inspired to keep doing this thing? Keep doing this thing over and every day, day in and day out?
Well, probably entrepreneurs, they just like doing their own thing. And both my brothers ended up being entrepreneurs in different ways. And, I was fine having a boss, because I had a great boss. Luckily, I never had, I don't think, a bad boss like many people do. But still, you want to do your own thing. And if you think you see, not to be unkind, but you wouldn't do things the way other people do, especially executives, right? That's a good sport. If you're a corporate person, is to say, well, why is that executive making that silly decision, right?
Yeah.
Well, you get to make all the decisions yourself. And since I came up with this, unique idea, it was an innovation. I kind of call it my baby, and you take pride in that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it'll last longer than me, but at least for now, it's something that I created, and I take a little bit of pride in that.
Cool. I love it. So do you have a favorite business book that you read or that you like? And if you do, why do you like that book?
Well, I thought about that, and I tend to read, believe it or not, more psychology books than business books. I mean, a while back, I think I read Good to Great. Um, I'm reading Psychology as it applies to business.
Oh, I like
And
it.
it's over here on my cabinet, Why We Decide, Influence. There's a famous book by a psychologist, Robert Cialdini, called Influence. I've got one called Brain Fluence. I've got
Mm,
a great book called Thou Shalt Prosper that was written by a rabbi, but it's about the honor of business, right? Because you're not just you might think you're in it just to make money, but you're actually exchanging value. That's what business is. So this rabbi talks of Thou Shalt Prosper. I recommend that's a great book.
okay.
Adam Adam Grant originals, Daniel Pink. So these are all psychologists, you'll notice.
Yeah.
But thinking back a million years ago, when I first started in the corporate world, there was this book called the 12 Immutable Laws of Marketing, by, I'm going to get the name wrong. I want to say Jack Trout and Al Ries, Ries. And it was just all about marketing and branding, and how your brand must stand for one thing. And it's better if your brand only stands for one thing, because that's the niche in the mind of your customers and prospects. And the one big takeaway or example that I remember is there was a time when Heinz stood for pickles, and Heinz was number one in pickles. But then when Heinz said, "Hey, we ought to extend our brand to ketchup and mustard," the moment they did that, yeah, they started selling some ketchup and mustard, but they lost their number one spot in pickles. Vlasic came along.
Oh, okay.
And so there's different schools of thought on it, right? Because, Budweiser was the king of beers. But then when they started doing Bud Light and Bud Lime and Bud Non-Zero, and, they, as we all know, they lost their number one spot
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in regular lager beer. Of course, they had some other issues recently on that, but
Yeah.
so anyway, that's a book I remember. And then the most impactful idea I remember, got this one in business school, was a paper, a famous marketing paper called Marketing Myopia,
Hmm.
by a famous professor of marketing at Northwestern. I'm going to blank on his name, Philip something, but it's called Marketing Myopia. And the idea there was, the railroad industry. Now, the railroad industry is quite strong now, but there was a time when the railroad industry executives thought that they were in the railroad business, and they didn't realize they were in the transportation business.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
they started losing ground to trucking companies. And so that's just an easy thing to keep in mind. What business are you really in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I could think that I'm in the speed dial business or
Yeah.
the telecom business, but I'm really in the connection business.
Okay.
Consumers connected to brands. So it just helps you think a little bit broader about what you
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah, I like that. I know they say Amazon is a logistics company.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They don't make anything. They just move things around and they do it well.
Well, yeah, lots of people can be an online seller, right? Walmart's tried, but they're never going to catch up
Yeah.
with Amazon in all likelihood, unless they change the game. Hey, if there's any Walmart execs listening, I thought you'll never beat Amazon at their game. So the way to win is change the game.
Yeah.
And so you could have a speed dial, let's say pound 250, that connected to your voice AI agent, and you could allow consumers to just say what they wanted, and it'll read back the price, and it'll understand their natural language, and then it shows up at the door. And they don't have to pull out a credit card, and they don't have to search through the options, but we could still deliver a visual picture if they wanted via
Mm-hmm.
So if there's any, Jet or Walmart execs listening,
You never
we
know.
sell you pound 250 and change the game on Amazon.
That's great. So true though. And the game will change. It will change. And Amazon, who knows if it'll be here in our lifetime as it is today. But
Yeah.
it's so fun. Business is so fun. And the marketing aspect of business is so interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
And the psychology of marketing. Whew. And a lot of people who think they're so brilliant with whatever, just really were lucky at the right time, at the right place. And you're always looking for that opportunity. Be prepared to be lucky,
Absolutely.
you know?
Uh,
So when it's,
what is it? The success is the residue of preparation or something like that.
amen. Yeah. All the things you're doing on a daily basis to be ready for it. So, well, when your business is done, or I guess when the business is working without you, how would you like to be remembered, or what would you like people to remember about you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur?
Oh, as a business owner.
Yeah,
Well,
or
as a
either.
person, well, the only thing I could come up with was kind. I would like to be remembered as a kind person. That's all.
Isn't that, yeah, yeah.
Uh, I've read enough Eastern philosophy that I don't have any ego goals, right?
Hmm.
Although there's still a vestige of that, like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind being remembered as the creator of Pound 250, this new platform.
Yeah,
So I'm going to allow myself that much ego. But other than that, yeah, just a nice guy.
I think that's great. Love it. It's been a fun interview. How do people find you? What's the best way?
Well, our website is pound250.com, and that's POUND 250.com. And the other way is, I think you should dial it on your own mobile phone. Just dial pound 250
Okay.
and say the keyword get more calls.
Wow.
So dial pound 50, say get more calls,
Okay.
and you'll have a chance to leave us a voicemail, and we'll also be sending a text reply with links to our website.
Okay, that's great. Great. So hopefully you'll get some calls from that. How many of these pound 250 calls are made a day?
Oh, we get about 20,000 calls a month, and
Okay.
some people might think that's small, but we're getting calls nationwide from advertisers nationwide,
Yeah.
whether they're local in Monterey, California, or they're running their national ads. Interestingly, we sometimes get calls from prospects or consultants that say, well, our business gets 10,000 calls a day. And not from advertising, you don't.
Yeah.
because our advertisers on these national programs who have audiences of 6 million people, they run an ad for the most appealing product, and they'll get like 50 calls when they run a spot, right? So nobody's getting 10,000 calls from an ad, short of a Super Bowl ad, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate getting to know you and this little secret we have in Kansas with you and your pound 250. I think it's really neat, and I love that you're doing it and that you shared your story. I really appreciate it. So I just interviewed Dave Robinett, Dave Robinett, and you are the founder of Pound 250, which is a number that you can call and say a word and be connected with who you're expecting to be connected with. I think that's great. I'm Coach Lee with Action Coach Business Coaching, and this is the Business Spotlight.